Here we are. Round 2.
Hi.
Hi, Pua. We're so excited to talk to you today.
So happy to be here. Thank you for having
Likewise.
us.
Thank you for being here. I have been looking forward to this for a
Welcome.
while. We've known each other for almost a year now, huh?
Yeah.
Just about.
Yeah. Solid year. Yeah.
Awesome. So Kristin and Travis are what I hope all of our clients become is clients come friends and people that I admire, that I look up to, that I truly enjoy. Like we do our regular check-in calls, and I look forward to them so much because not only are you amazing people and I just like who you are as humans, but your business is so incredible, and your story and the reason why you do what you do, the way that you got here. I've been wanting to share your story on this podcast for a very long time. So thank you for
that's
taking
wonderful
the
to hear.
time. Yeah.
Thank you for your kind words. We really appreciate it.
Very sweet.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for, I have to share, before we get into your story, when we first met, I think we did our consultation, and I can't say I tell all of our clients because this is something that I just developed maybe a year and a half ago, but at the consultations, I always recommend now for people to do their due diligence and to understand that your designer is as much a part of your business and your team and your family as anybody else. And they really have to, you have to resonate with each other. And so I was like, talk to people,
So true.
Go talk to my previous clients and my current clients, like ask questions. And you did. And I just love that. And I use you as an example all the time because people are like, is that weird? Am I like investigating you? And then like, but I love that you did that. And we can dive into that. We don't have to. This is about you. But I just think that's cool. And I'm glad that you guys said yes and that it worked out. So anyway.
It has definitely worked out.
By the way, they were glowing reviews. Every single one was like glowing.
Yeah, it was. I remember that. I remember her telling me about them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
That's all about you, Pua, without a doubt.
You guys are amazing. I just want people to know it's not weird. Like you can ask questions and you can talk to people before you hire someone.
Yes,
but let's dive into your story and like just if you want to share start wherever you want to start, and share what your business is, what we've been working on together, and as much as your story as you want to share, because there are many facets to it. There are many ways and reasons why you got to where you are today, many reasons why you serve in the way that you serve. So feel free.
All right, who wants to start? I'm starting.
All right, so the overall picture than I have.
I'll go back then. I'll start us off with kind of where we came up, before where we came up with the business, kind of our past history as a family. Geez, I tell different versions of the story depending on what we want to focus on. So let me do the one where I go back kind of way back. Okay, back to the beginning of our relationship. And so I had met Kristin through a mutual friend. Kristin came into our relationship when we first started dating. She already had Zach, who's our oldest, who's now 17. He was 2 at the time. And I was not equipped as a boyfriend with a 2-year-old and living in my house after 6 months of us dating. I was overwhelmed. I yelled a lot at both Kristin and Zach. I shamed them a lot by the things that I would say to them because I would get so frustrated and I didn't know how to communicate. I didn't know how to let out those emotions in a more productive way. And so it was, I'm sure, very hard on them to deal with me. I don't blame them at all on any of it because it was me as the adult that should be able to handle that, but I wasn't able to. And so that went along in our marriage for years as we had our second and then our third child. I did a lot of yelling. I nicked myself. The King of Shame was actually my nickname, that I came up with because I probably shamed worse than most parents. And this went on for years. Again, the yelling, kind of what you would call a dysfunctional family, you know? Um, Kids were always thrown off by it because there was so much yelling. It was just overwhelming emotionally. I think again for both Kristen and I in that regards. And then roughly, do you want to get into talking now about your PTSD and your diagnosis and when that happened roughly?
Yes. So roughly it was early 2019. I had gotten to a point where I was so debilitated I couldn't barely leave the bed. Um, Everything was overwhelming to me, and I didn't know what was happening. I thought I was going crazy. My family around me thought I was going crazy and wanted me to go into a mental facility to figure it out. But I didn't want to leave my boys. They were young at the time, and I just didn't want to leave them. So I agreed to see a new doctor who specialized in post traumatic stress disorder. And she diagnosed me with complex PTSD, which is like the granddaddy of PTSD. And typically it starts in childhood, but it can also start in teenage years or as an adult. But essentially what it is when you have multiple traumas in your life and then you get triggered by one of the traumas and your brain doesn't remember which one. It just remembers the feeling you had at the time. And that's called an emotional flashback. And once I realized that, I realized, oh my gosh, my brain's not broken. Like it's actually protecting me. It's doing its job. And so I was like, okay, now I've got to figure this out. Now I've got to, there's a there's a key to all of this. And so I started researching it and figuring out everything there was because in my mind, I'm like, so many people must have this, so many people. And so I just need to do as much as I can now to learn about it and get the word out. And so I started a Facebook page, which has now grown, which is really exciting, Complex PTSD Warrior. And I try to help as many people as I can through that in that way. And then throughout this whole experience and this whole journey, it started with me and kind of this being diagnosed, but it obviously bled into our family, and there was this ripple effect. And so I went and started getting help and seeking therapy. And so then Travis started seeking therapy for himself, and we started seeking therapy for the boys as well. Um, but it, it it definitely led us on our path that we eventually came to. And so I'm going to go from there.
Yeah, without a doubt. Did you have a question at all, Pua?
I mean, first, thank you for just being so open and honest, like, and sharing your honest story and experience. And I do have a lot of questions, but I want to wait and just kind of see how
Okay.
your story unfolds for you. Yeah. So go on.
Okay. So, like Kristen said, she got diagnosed. That next year was incredibly difficult for all of us. And it was really incredibly difficult for myself because I love my wife, but it was very hard to see her be triggered the way she was for songs, for street signs,
Mm.
you name it. The triggers can happen at any time in any place. We were going into Canada on a road trip with the kids one time. This was again around 2019, and we're going in about to go over the bridge to go into Canada, and we go by a street sign that triggers Kristen. And really, again, emotionally, it's very tough as a loved one, me and the kids, to see that because we're just scared for her, when it happens, and we know it overwhelms her and it overwhelms all of us emotionally. And so we started, Kristen and I, really focusing on ourselves and our self care and trying to do things between learning how to properly meditate and getting into different forms of meditation, getting into exercising consistently, doing other things that were, again, about taking care of ourselves and not just, journaling.
Breath work.
Yep, breath work.
Somatic exercise.
Yes, I'm so glad you thought of those.
I can just keep going all day. We have so many things that we love to do.
So we started doing those and perfecting those and tweaking those because the ultimate goal for us was we realized at that time, oh my gosh, our kids have dealt with the trauma of all our fighting, all our yelling. Kristen's now CPTSD. We had to make a fundamental change in our family because we felt like heading into 2019, into 2020 with COVID, our family was teetering. And what I mean by teetering is Chris and I were probably heading towards divorce potentially down the road. Our kids, again, life was chaotic for them because of the yelling and screaming all the time. It wasn't good for them. It wasn't good for their learning in school. It wasn't good with how they dealt with life outside of school. And so, again, we knew we had to make these changes, but with the intention of becoming better parents. And so COVID then happens, throws the world upside down. It threw ours upside down because the business that we owned at the time, a couple Anytime Fitness gyms, actually three of them, um, were hit really hard with COVID because we had to close down each of the gyms for 3 months because the state required it. And so coming out of that, it was very difficult for us, honestly, financially, coming out of that because we had lost 3 months of revenue, but at the end of the day, still had to pay rent on all three of those locations. And so we got back from that summer, 2020, we got back from a trip to Idaho to see family. And we got back and said, okay, if we're going to make a change in life and we're going to live somewhere we want to live, um, we've got to do it now. Now's the time. We're coming out of COVID. We're ready to sell the gyms. We're ready to be done with that. We were ready to be done with snow and the cold and all of that. And so we decided, you want to continue a little bit with so we decided to move to Hawaii and change our life for the better with our family. And so what it allowed us to do is in suburban Chicago, we spent all our time driving around. Anywhere we'd go to a gym to work at the gym that day, it's 45 minutes. To go from one gym to another, it's an hour and a half. So everything we did took a ton of time, and we felt like that was taking away from potential quality time with our kids. And so we said, hey, if we're going to do this, let's move there. Let's create this new environment. And that's exactly what it did. Within a year, our relationship with our kids was dramatically different. Our relationship with each other was dramatically different. I, shortly after coming here, and Kristen, same thing, I almost forgot that. Within 3 to 4 months, we found game-changing therapists. Mine's a therapist, but he technically is a men's work therapist or a men's work coach. So he works with men like dads like myself in how to take ownership of how we think typically as men and how we think that what we say goes, right, in a household where a lot of us were raised that way. I was somewhat raised that way. And so I learned very quickly from him to to stop not taking ownership, first of all, and take ownership for everything that was my fault, my thing that I need to work on and deal with. So we started working on all these different things, and it started changing our home dynamic dramatically. I stopped yelling at Kristen and the kids. I learned that that was obviously the worst thing I could be doing to them. I worked on my tone, which I realized through working with Tom that my tone that I used with Kristen and the kids was bad, really bad at times. It was very shaming tone, if that makes sense. It was very much I was trying to hurt them in reality by what I was saying to them because I thought, based on my experience growing up with my parents, that if you did that and you were tough enough on them, they would change, right? And so a lot of us were raised that way. And so I realized with the work with Tom that that's not how it should be. That's not fair to my family. That's not fair to me. And again, I'm not taking any ownership if I do it that way. So I also wanted to jump to Kristen meeting her therapist at around the same time. PTSD expert, amazing, wonderful, gave Kristen different ideas and perspectives on how to work with her CPTSD and how to communicate what she was feeling. So our relationship, once we started with both of them, started going like this as far as communication. Like it was night and day. It went from yelling and sarcasm and disgust, probably in my voice towards Kristin, to, oh my gosh, we can't talk like that to each other. That is not the right way to handle things. We love each other dearly. We care about each other. We want calmness throughout the family. We learned all about bringing calmness to our family, which had been obviously the opposite since the beginning of our family. And so we started doing all these things. And kind of ultimately what ended up happening was one of our kids, our youngest kid, is in soccer. And so what had happened a couple years ago over the course of like year and a half is parents would hear us talking to our kids because our other kids would come to the games or come to practice. So they would see how we interacted with our kids. They would see how we would discipline our kids. And so shortly after that, we started getting parents coming back to us and saying, hey, I don't know if you remember this, but you talked to me about how you handled this with one of your children 6 months ago. I've been doing that, or we've been doing it with my wife and I with our kids. And I want to let you know what a difference that has made, your advice has made in our lives, in our kids' lives, and how much better we deal with things now compared to when we had the conversation 6 months ago and we weren't doing anything that you were talking about. So like that's mind blowing to have a parent like that was the greatest reward that you could possibly have for people like us. They're all about helping our family get better. But now we have this belief that we can really help other parents and we have the tools and the skill set to be able to do that.
Experience.
Yeah, and experience. And so sorry, I lost my train of thought. You want to continue with sorry.
Continue. Think what you're
I just lost
I stop it here.
With
You were kind of talking about how parents were coming up to you and
for our business.
Yeah.
Sorry, can you please? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, I want you to be able to finish that sentence, so he'll be able to finish it in the.
Got it. Should I keep going? Sorry.
Yeah.
This will all get
no
edited
worries.
out.
And
Okay,
I have
sorry.
a ton of questions that maybe might ping some, continuation of that thought. First of all, how
Please.
amazing is it that, like, there's a quote that says your mess becomes your message. And I think that's such a generalization. Some people's mess is, everybody's mess is different. And if you think about it as a mess, like, I don't mean that in any sort of offensive way, but it's just this like horribly difficult time that we go through. If you were to come out of what you went through and, at any point along your journey that you explained to me, I can see a family breaking, right? That's enough. Don't yell at me one more time or it's over. That's enough. You're handle your PTSD and then we'll, come back to me. Like, there are so many ways where this could have just torn a family apart. And instead, you saw the value in understanding that awareness and using it to create this beautiful experience together and this life together because you're worth fighting for. And that to me is that in and of itself. If you didn't create this business and you had that experience and were able to move forward in life as, through healing and being there for each other, that would have been a win. And yet, in addition to that, you're now taking that experience. And I love what you said about the soccer game where people just observe you and they're kind of like, what was that? That was cool. Like, we're having a very similar challenge in our family. And you teach them a little something and they come back and they're like, I don't know if you know this, but you changed our life. Like, those are little signs that this is the path for you. And I love that you followed that. I love that you understood that this experience you went through in this difficult time where it felt like you were in such darkness has become this space for you to pay it forward and help others through something that because you experienced it, you probably felt like, I'm the only person that feels this way. I don't know anybody else that struggles with these things. Yep. Right? And for you to create these spaces that are safe and supportive and help people to understand that they're not alone and everybody's journey is going to look different. And yet there are similarities that you can support each other with. And there are resources out there, right? Even if you are not going to be the therapist, but you are the hub for resources for people to find a therapist, that's needed. Sometimes you don't even have that, right? So all
Correct.
of these pieces of your business that you're putting together from these experiences that you had that were so close to breaking you, I'm sure, so many times. First of all, thank you for experiencing that, for going through it, for all of the awareness and the hard work that you did internally, externally, with your family, with providers, in order for you to get to where you are today, to be able to create the business that you have, to share that with the world. Like, can we just celebrate that?
I love
You are
it.
both
you.
so amazing.
That is
Thank you.
awesome. That is awesome.
I fully hear you, and I fully appreciate that. That means so much.
And I'll continue off of what you just said, Pua, and that's where I was going with, all the work and everything, and then the feedback from the parents. So we decided, we're like, wait a minute, we have a business here. And Kristin and I, and I'll talk about this. We normally don't talk about this when we talk about where the business came from. It is our first business together over the last year that we have ran in 25 years of owning businesses together from the beginning. So that's what's so exciting for both of us, I know, is working together on this, because obviously we've been through the same, so to speak, the same experience over the last, 15 years of being together. And so we're excited. We're passionate about it. Again, the fact that we can do it together as a married couple and try to change lives around the world, is amazing. So that got us started a year ago, and we started working with you on the website. We started, at the end of last year, started meeting with different teacher groups and talking to teachers and informing them and making them aware of the shaming terms that they use with kids in class. Most teachers in the one that we got together at the school, and the teachers were there in front of us, and there's probably 15 teachers in front of us. The feedback and the conversations that we had just were heartwarming, because it made the teachers realize for the first time, oh my gosh, there is some things that I'm saying that is actually shaming my children in class, and I had no idea I was doing it. And right, we hear that all the time from parents or from teachers. I had no idea. So again, we don't blame you for not knowing. We tell parents all the time, nobody is perfect. This is about learning and getting better over time as parents, so we can have our kids live a calmer, more stable upbringing that leads to better emotional connection with other people as they grow up. They're able to deal with things at work much more easily because they're able to keep calm under different circumstances. They don't yell at their coworker because of the work that we're going to be doing with them. So I want to add that part in.
Yeah, it's so exciting. I'm sorry, I've lost my train of thought because
That's okay.
like, yeah, that's
You're like, dead on. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's really powerful because to your point, you start out perhaps with a fixed incident or something that repeats itself, right? Somebody comes up to you, I don't know how to deal with my own emotions when I get frustrated or when people don't listen to me, or this is the one thing that I want to fix. And what I think, that's the catalyst for most service engagements, right? If we look at it like, I have an issue, I have a problem.
Yeah.
This is what you do. This is how we're going to solve it. And so there's a quote, right? Like, sell people what they want, give them what they need. What they want,
Yes.
and you know this from the fitness industry too, right? Somebody says, I want to lose
Yep.
5 pounds. Can I join your gym? You know that your gym can provide all of these resources, but they want to lose the 5 pounds. Same thing here.
Yes.
They want to just learn how to not yell when they're frustrated. But what they'll get when they work with you is all of this awareness around triggers and, all of these other tools and resources, which will provide this holistic boundaries. Exactly. It's a very, the ripple effect is huge. And you mentioned something that I didn't even think about, was the coaching that you provide for parents to create this calm environment for your family where you're not going to take away all of the challenges and all of the arguments and all of the things that happen in day-to-day life, but you provide tools for awareness and how to move forward and create this environment that actually the kids can learn from and take into their lives. That to me is the definition of a ripple effect. And this is the legacy that you're building that is literally going to be a generational legacy, because kids will go to work, 10 years, 20 years from now, and their boss will say, wow, I saw you handle that situation so calmly. How'd you do that? And they'll say, oh, my mom taught me that. My dad taught me that. They'll never know, maybe, but they learned that from you, right? So
How
I think
amazing is
that's,
that?
yeah, totally.
And we already see it with our own children and their emotional intelligence. It's pretty remarkable. I'm trying to think of an example off the bat. They'll call us out for shaming them. It's very shaming of you. Or what else do they say?
Yeah, they'll call us out and go simply, they'll say, "You're a parent coach. Shouldn't you know this, or shouldn't you be handling this better
Yes.
with me?" And that will be our reminder of, oh shoot,
Mhm.
I am, deferring back to the way I used to do it a little bit. Shoot, I better get,
Yeah.
get conscious again, right? And that's why we call it conscious awareness, conscious parenting, is because it's consciously being aware. And at times it's the kids or it's Kristin that needs to remind me and say, hey, you know what? The tone that you use with me and the kids brought back old memories of the tone, the shaming tone that you used to use for similar circumstances. Can you please keep that in mind? And I immediately now, unlike the old me, which will be, kind of standoffish, kind of, fence goes up, wall goes up. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that I stink at being a parent. Now, again, part of that ownership that we take as parents is we own those things. When we make those mistakes, we own it with the kids and say, you know what? You're right. I am shaming you right now. Completely my bad. I did not mean that at all. I did not mean the way it came across. I am sorry, and I will work on fixing that. And that's all you can do, right? As a parent, is work on getting better. You're going to have days where nothing goes right, right? You can't say anything right to your spouse. You can't say anything right to your kids. Everybody's yelling and screaming. Everybody's upset at everybody. But then you're going to have days where I remember when we first moved here and we started working with the therapist that we talked about. Within 3 months of that time of me starting to work with Tom, I remember telling Kristin and going, I've had deeper, more meaningful conversations with our kids in the last 6 months.
Embracing that. Mhm.
Embracing vulnerability with them, which is a key part of, especially as a dad, to connect with your boys, for example, is breaking down and having vulnerability with them and showing them what vulnerability is. And it's okay and it's safe to be vulnerable and let out fears and insecurities that you might not want to tell someone else. And so we had these amazing conversations that were deeper and better than I have had, honestly, combined. The whole time that we had before moving here with my three boys, I had within 6 months more deeper, meaningful conversation. Mind blowing. Again, if we could just give that to parents, like the simple fact of having better, easier communication where there is no yelling and you're actually having deep conversations with your children and you're making them realize, you know what? Life isn't easy. But if you learn ways to handle things and you have self care available to you to be able to go to help get you out of a funk or help you deal with things better, they're going to be a lot better place. Like you were saying, Pua, going back to, not only now as a child, but they're as an adult, they're going to be better equipped to handle what life throws at us, right? Because life throws new stuff every day at us and stresses us out. Well, kids need to be able to learn, okay, that's the way life is. That's okay. Life can be that way. But I can be calm in my demeanor and how I handle things. I can take deep breaths if I need to because I need to relax because I'm getting worked up about something. So yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Such a beautiful thing. And the awareness too. That's one of the things that you mentioned. Just the shame awareness. I think that, and just awareness in general. Like if I look back to 2019 when I was diagnosed, I had absolutely no awareness of anything. Looking back, I really don't feel I did. We like to call it living in our 8-year-old selves. And so when I'm triggered, I go back to my 8-year-old self. And I look back thinking until 2019, and I started working on myself. Prior to that, I don't feel like I was in my adult self. I felt like I was living in my child self. And, like I had said before, I was debilitated. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't take care of my kids. I couldn't enjoy my kids and be in the moment with them. I was too down in the weeds to like actually be up, looking at them and enjoying that too in my head. And so all this work I've done, I'm incredibly proud to have gone from not being able to function. And again, like he had said, we're starting a business now. I can function. This is exciting, right? But not being able to function back then to now feeling amazing and being, we had a business that we just sold that I was a co-founder of, Big Island Esports, and that really gave me a lot of confidence because
Of running a business. Yeah.
and our business was the first to get a permit on the Big Island for e-foils. And that's something I had to work really hard to do. So it just gave me that confidence of, hey, I can do this. And then when we moved here, I said, my goal is to help other kids talk about their traumas because I waited till I was 42. And if I hadn't waited that long, I would most likely wouldn't have developed complex PTSD. And so if I can talk to kids early and let them know my message that, hey, just let it out, just talk about it with someone you feel safe with. Just the importance of that. And so I intended to open my own nonprofit to help kiddos going through trauma, but I found one that was even more beautiful than anything I could have imagined. It was Karis who had put it together, and I'm just blessed now to be a mentor, a weekly mentor there, and then also the vice president of the board of directors. So it feels pretty amazing to be able to have gone through this incredible transformation with this man next to me because there's no way in the world I, would have been able to do it without him. And my boys. It feels really good, and I want to help as many other people that are at that place that I was, and explain to them that it's not you, your brain's not broken, and just help them get to a better place. So.
Awesome.
My gosh, your story is inspirational. It's beautiful, and I met you after you've gone through so much of this inner work, and a lot of this is actually new information for me. I didn't know the depth of the trauma that you both experienced and the challenges that you had. And just owning a business is overwhelming. Dead stop. People shut down all the time because the overwhelm of being an entrepreneur and just the pressure, and you're wearing a million hats, and you both navigate this space in such a beautiful, way. And to know that was your journey and your transformation just a couple years before we met, like that's incredible. And not only that, but you are mentoring and you're on a board of directors for a nonprofit, and you are, developing course material, and you have a community. Like there are so many things that you do, and so many, I think a theme that keeps coming up is safety and creating safe spaces. And, there are a lot of parts in these journeys, right? Where like a lot of this comes from feeling unsafe or unsure. And that, may trigger us to go within. It may trigger us to explode. It may trigger us to not know what to do and who to talk to, or feel like we can't talk to anybody. And so it sounds like you've created multiple safe spaces for people to come and express themselves without judgment, a space to find healing and to find resources. And I'd love to move into what this looks like as we start to see more and more of your new business coming to life and the things that you have to offer. You've been both working incredibly hard. Like, you have these big ideas and these really, really incredible things that you're taking on, and you do them. Like, so many people, I want to do this, I want to do that. One day, someday, you do them. Like, you do them today.
Yeah.
It's been
I love
amazing.
it. Thank you.
Yeah.
The one that pushes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You both work so well together too. Can I just say,
we do.
like, it's
Yeah.
Well, I've gotten to be that way,
amazing.
I guess now, but yeah. Thank you.
No,
For
you
what
hold
does
it
your
together
business
too,
look like?
without a doubt.
Yeah. What does your business look like now? And what are some things that you have coming up? How can people learn about what you have? And if, they're listening to this and they're like, my gosh, either that's me or I know somebody I want to share. Actually, let's talk about that after. Like, if somebody wants to look into this themselves, because I really want to know, like, what suggestions do you have for somebody who's like, my gosh, I know someone who really needs Travis and Kristin, but that's like a weird conversation, right? Because you're like, well, I hear you shaming your kids sometimes. Like, how do you, anyway, so we can do that after.
Okay, sounds good.
That sounds good.
Sounds good. So you want to talk about our 3-day parenting workshop?
Yes. So we have coming up, we have a 3-day parenting workshop. It's our 3-day Conscious Parenting 101 workshop, and it will be on Wednesday, June 12th, and then Thursday the 13th, and then Friday the 14th. And it's a 3-day, like I said, 3-day conscious parenting workshop where we'll teach you the fundamentals, and we'll teach different self-care exercises and somatic exercises and breathing work and all the different tools that we have that we've learned. We'll pass those along. And then we will also have, a second here, I wish I would have printed it out.
A big part of it's going to be awareness. There were a lot of different parenting areas that we deal with, making them aware, which is the biggest thing most of the times is parents, we're just not aware, right? That we do these things because we're dealing with our kids all day long, especially if they're at home and you work from home or you're a stay-at-home parent. You're with them a long day, potentially some days, and things happen and things are said.
Right.
And so we want to make parents aware with this 3-day workshop.
And aware of the way that they were raised influences the way they raise their children now. And how to learn about them, but also not feel shameful about the way they're parenting now.
Yes.
That's very important that parents understand that, again, this is a judge-free environment. We are not perfect. Like, our kids eat like crap, like so many things that we personally need to work on, like ourselves. We are not perfect parents by any means, but I'm conscious that my kids eat like crap.
Yeah, we're aware of it.
And it's something that we are working on to change. But it's something, again, that I don't want anyone to think like these are two parent coaches that think that,
We're
they've got
acting like we're perfect. Definitely not.
Definitely don't. And the other thing too is that now we still have so many things that we go through. Right now we're personally going through a lot of different trials and tribulations and struggles. And the thing is that they still happen. Like you had mentioned, these things still happen in life. It's now how we can respond to them in a more calm and effective manner rather than a shaming, hurtful way that might have, future repercussions. So
yeah.
Well put.
And it sounds like this
and then the time is 9:30 to 11, and that's Hawaii Standard Time, right?
9:30 to 11.
Is it on
Hawaii
Zoom?
Standard Time.
Or is it live locally?
Yes,
on Zoom. Cool. So anybody around the world could join it.
Yes, anywhere, without a doubt.
Cool.
We are here to help out parents anywhere they live, without a doubt, as long as they can understand English. Yeah. That's obviously our main caveat.
Or if they have Google Translate. And they can,
exactly. Yeah. Yes, great
One
point.
Day I think there's going to be an AI where you can be on Zoom and speaking in one language, and then they receive it in their native language. I'm sure it already exists, if we're being honest.
It probably does.
It probably does.
Amazing.
And then we have a second workshop coming up on May 20th, which will be the following Thursday. I believe that's the 20th. Yep. And that will be for the next 6 Thursdays in a row, excluding the 4th of July. So, and that workshop, excuse me, that 6-week workshop is a more intense workshop where we're going to, by the end of it, have a 6-week action plan to to become a conscious parent.
Could
So,
they do both workshops, the 3-day and the 6-week?
yes,
Oh, without a
absolutely.
doubt.
Absolutely.
Without a doubt.
If they
Yep.
can't
So,
do the 3-day, could they still do the 6-week?
yes, they can
Yes.
absolutely do
Yeah,
6-week without
yes.
doing the 3-day. And if they can't make all 3 days, they will be able to watch the videos as well. So,
Awesome. Amazing. What I love about this so much is it sounds like we turn things like shame or reactivity from a thing of like, this is my problem that I have to fix and I have to deal with, to a family support system of like, I think when it comes to inner work or fixing things or, taking something that you feel like you've been doing wrong and you're the bad guy, and turning it into this experience where it's like, as you said, we're humans, we're not perfect. And the goal is to be less of one thing and more of another, not completely
Yes.
never go back to, the way that we used to react to things ever again. And having, again, a safe space for your family to be like, excuse me, that felt very shameful, instead of like,
Exactly.
right.
it's not like shock therapy. It's like this very sort of positive support system where we know that we're going to be getting
Yes.
better over time and creating awareness, and we're not going to be perfect. And that to me feels like so much more of an approachable space than, come to my 6-week boot camp and you'll never be reactive again. It's like,
Yeah.
we're human.
Right.
So,
Or-
yeah.
I just popped in my head, like parents that ask us all the time, they're like, how do you do this? And I'm like, well, let me start off with the first question. You told me what the issue is. Have you talked to your child about it? Most parents, it's just making them aware that, hey, this is a basic conversation. We'll teach you how to have these conversations in our classes, in our courses, that how to have them much easier than what you thought it would be. Because parents complicate this, right? We're, as humans, we complicate things, right? As adults, we complicate everything instead of just simplifying and going, you know what? A lot of it comes down to just having the conversations and communicating it is the majority of the battle, you know? And so, yeah, it's just, yeah.
And
Anyways,
then
I want to get that.
and then to be able to control your emotions for having that conversation with your child. That's the key part there, is not only having the conversation, but then able to do it in a calm, effective manner.
Yeah,
Right.
Is important too.
great point.
Do you think that's part of the fear of having the conversation, is you don't want to have it because you don't know how the other person's going to react, so you'd rather not?
Correct.
Oh yeah.
With our kids, it happens obviously with teenagers. Our 17-year-old, what we're willing to say to him and when is completely different than our other two children. So, yeah,
Interesting.
without a doubt. Yeah. Great
Yeah.
question.
And again, going back to tone too, tone is so important that you're using. There is a shameful tone. There is a mean tone.
Sarcastic
Sarcastic.
tones. And we do those because, again, we were raised like that, right? Our parents did the same thing. We're used to that. We're used to that as an adult, being sarcastic maybe with another adult, because we're not willing to say what we're really feeling inside or what's really going on. And so, yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. So interesting. I think it's so for people who are like book readers or podcast
Yes.
listeners, or they're like, I am aware already, I have this issue, I'm doing the work to fix it, and it's very like internal. It's, there may be shame, like internal shame of like, I don't want to let other people know that this is something that I know that I have, or I've self-diagnosed, right or wrong, right? What are your thoughts for somebody who's out there who's thinking like, okay, I'm hearing this. This is cool. I'm just going to go keep listening to my Audible list of self-help books and I'm good. What are some benefits to actually working with a group, working with a coach, and having the kind of support that you offer?
I'd say the biggest thing based on what you had just said was that that overall support that we give them and the practice that we put them through. So they're going to get homework in the 6-week course after every week session that we have. They'll put that together, their homework and everything, and work on it. And then we're going to get together and we're going to practice it. So we're going to do breakout sessions within our course, within the 6-week course, and break it down so people feel more comfortable having that conversation maybe with one other parent instead of presenting to everyone. So we're going to practice these things. We're going to get these things down, how to verbally communicate, how to communicate nonverbal communication.
Mm.
A lot of our communication as parents, right, is nonverbal communication. It's arms up in the air when a kid drives us nuts with something. It's giving a pat on the
look.
back. Maybe they're not comfortable with a pat on the back. We learned that about our oldest child. Is completely different. Again, all three of our kids are completely different with how they like to be physically interacted with. One's high fives, one's fist bumps, one's okay, not even a pat on the back. And that's okay. We've learned that. We respect that. So we teach parents that, because we were all raised right, that we're the parent, we're the one that makes the ultimate decision. The buck stops with me, right? So part of conscious parenting is really having a mutual relationship with your child, where it's less of that, you're going to do this and this is how you do it. It's, hey, have you thought about doing it this way? And actually having a conversation with your child. So I'd say that's the biggest thing from self-help books and doing it live classes with us, with the homework and everything and all of that involved, is we're giving them real life examples and then practicing it, how to have those conversations. So unlike a book where it just says, hey, have this conversation, do this or do that. Well, there's no one to practice with. Who's your partner in this? Who's your person you're going to communicate to go, my gosh, this is overwhelming what Travis and Kristin are going with. Where's your support? The book can't support you that way, right? We can as coaches. We can definitely support them. Do you want to add on?
And the other parents that are in the group too are also
exactly. That's great point.
Other people
great
are
point.
Going through these things. You're not alone. Many other parents are too.
Yeah.
I think is huge.
Awesome.
Yeah.
There's one last thing I'd like to say, because I know we're really short on time.
No, go for it.
And that is, Travis had mentioned this at the beginning, and I just wanted to clarify that it wasn't the only reason that we moved here wasn't because of the traffic. And that's the only thing you mentioned. So I just want to say that we moved here because we wanted a 180-degree change within our family. And we wanted a place where we felt we could actually enjoy all 12 months of the year outside with them, because we were always itching to get out and just be with them outside and do something with them. So we're constantly going places just to, to fulfill that and just to have that time. And also to get away from my triggers and to just have that safe space. So it was a lot more than just, it definitely helps the drive time. Although people moving here more and more kind of slows that down, but it's.
And also what it's become, Pua, honestly, is it's our safe place. Like, we moved here because we didn't feel, with Kristin, with her triggers and everything, we didn't feel safe living where we had always, lived and where Kristin grew up. And so that was a big part of our move, was exactly feeling safety here. We feel so much safer here, not being in a big city, a big suburban area, and being in Kona, which is basically a small town, so to speak, and we love that aspect of, being able to walk down the street and not fear that, that something's going to happen. So,
or going to run into someone I know, or have that,
triggering
effect, experience of someone that, So,
yeah. Well, I love that model that you set forth. Sometimes this can really push us to make big, huge decisions and huge changes. Like, sometimes people may need to relocate or sell a business or do things that are very, very uncomfortable and huge and very difficult. And a lot of times we think that it's easier to just not do it. like I'm just going to
Yes.
stay here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I can deal with it. Like my triggers will go away, or, the business will get better. And a lot of times, like that is the big scary thing that needs to be done for you to actually begin to live your life. And you
So
didn't
true.
just do one of those things, you did several of them. And so that's another way that people get to learn from your experience and your journey. And I just, again, like I cannot thank you enough. 1 hour is not enough time with you both to
I
even
love
like
it. Thank
scratch
you.
the surface. Yes. So we like for sure. So anybody listening, the last couple of episodes, I have announced that we're taking a break for the summer, and the podcast will resume in September. And I would love to do a round 2 with you both, in a few months, see how the business has changed. We'll be in touch.
Wonderful.
We'll be
Right.
checking in, but I think
Okay.
your message and your business will resonate with so many people. And so I think they'll want an update as well to learn how they can continue to hear from you and learn from you and work with you. But just, thank you so much for sharing so openly,
Thank you, Pua.
for having the courage to do what you do, for being this beautiful change in the world that we all really, really need. I honor you, and I'm so grateful that you're doing what you're doing.
So well said. And we are so happy and grateful of what you're doing, podcasts like this. And as our website developer, builder extraordinaire, we have appreciated every second of working with you so far. So we really, again, we can't say enough good things about you.
Yes.
Thank you. I
You've been
appreciate that.
absolutely incredible. We couldn't have dreamed of someone better to
No.
work with.
Not in a million years. We've worked with a lot of businesses over time, as partners of our business, like you are of ours, and you are clearly hands down by far the best business partner we've ever had in any business that we've had. So we appreciate that a ton. And
Truly do.
again, we've been through good and bad, but you are the best without a
Oh
doubt.
my gosh. Thank you. I don't know how to
You're
receive that,
welcome.
but I will.
I love it.
Amazing. Where can people find you?
So they can
find your
us on,
business. Please don't give me your address.
they can find our business on Instagram, on Facebook, YouTube.
Our
Just getting
website.
started up on our website that Pua put together for us. Our brilliant, gorgeous website. And I'm trying to think if there's any other places. I think that's it.
No worries. If they find one of those, they'll find the rest, right?
Yes,
Everything's
without a
pretty
doubt.
connected.
Yep.
Exactly.
Nice and easy.
Perfect. Amazing. Well, thank you both.
Thank you,
will.
Pua.
I'm so bad at saying goodbye. I'll be like, "Thank you. No, you're the best. No, you're the best. Let's do it again. Should we do it again?" So I just have to like Houdini.
Fade out. I love it. We'll fade out too.
Slowly
Okay,
fade.
perfect.
We'll
Ready?
all fade out. Ready?
Okay. See you
Let's
later.
Go. Bye bye.